It all started with a soundless departure. 14 million tons of liquefied natural gas quietly sailed out of Kitimat, British Columbia, and for the first time in decades, not a single molecule flowed through a U.S. pipeline. Washington didn't blink. They didn't even know what had hit them. But make no mistake, what happened in that single moment wasn't just a trade. It was a declaration. A line in the sand. Mark Carney, the former Bank of Canada and Bank of England governor, just played his trump card. And this time, it wasn't just about finance. It was about energy, power, leverage, and the beginning of a whole new game. Before we dive into this energy war and its deep consequences for America, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and tap that notification bell. We've got some explosive developments ahead, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. For over 50 years, the United States relied on Canada like a trusted energy sidekick. Nearly 97% of all Canadian oil exports flowed south, powering American cities, fueling U.S. cars, and filling the coffers of American refineries. It was an unspoken arrangement: Canada drills, America profits. But Mark Carney saw the writing on the wall. He saw how America was weaponizing trade, tossing tariffs like grenades in every direction, from aluminum to lumber to dairy. And in a moment of quiet calculation, Carney asked a dangerous question: why keep helping a country that keeps attacking us? Enter Canada's East-West Energy Corridor, a project that had long been seen as too expensive, too complicated, or too political. But under Carney's influence and Prime Minister Trudeau's backing, it was reborn not as a dream, but as a national priority. Billions of dollars were funneled into infrastructure that had one goal: to break free from U.S. dependence. And the result? A direct line from Alberta's oil sands and British Columbia's gas fields straight to Pacific ports, bypassing the U.S. entirely. Now, here's what makes this so devastating for Washington. When that LNG shipment left Kitimat, it wasn't heading to California or Texas. It was bound for Japan. For China. For South Korea. These are countries the U.S. had long dominated in energy exports, until now. Because once Canada's West Coast terminals came online, Asian buyers were given a choice. They could buy American gas shipped from the Gulf Coast, or Canadian gas delivered faster, cheaper, and without navigating the Panama Canal. It wasn't even a fair fight. And Trump? Oh, he went ballistic. Behind closed doors, reports suggest he fumed over unfair energy deals and Canadian backstabbing. He even floated the idea of sanctioning Canadian firms, a move his advisors quickly shut down. But the damage was done. Canada had shown it could stand alone, and worse, it had proven it didn't need America anymore. Let's zoom out for a second. Mark Carney isn't your average politician. He's a global strategist, someone who's played chess at the highest levels of finance. At the Bank of England, he helped steer the UK through the Brexit crisis. At the UN, he's been shaping global climate finance. And now, with one stroke, he's engineered an economic realignment that could shake North America to its core. By rerouting Canadian energy east and west, instead of south, Carney didn't just cut the US out of the supply chain. He gave Canada leverage. Suddenly, American access to potash, steel, and even hydropower wasn't guaranteed. And that's exactly what Carney wanted: leverage. The kind you use when someone like Trump starts barking about tariffs. Think about this: the US is in the middle of a domestic energy crisis. Texas blackouts. California brownouts. Soaring gas prices. And now, their most stable energy supplier just pulled the rug out. Canadian natural gas used to provide a buffer against volatile Middle Eastern supplies and unstable domestic production. Not anymore. And Carney knows this. That's why Canadian energy exports are now being sold at a premium to global buyers, while American buyers are left scrambling. Canada controls over 80% of North America's potash, and instead of sending it to US farmers, it's now shipping to Brazil, India, and Southeast Asia. Rail terminals are expanding, port cities are thriving, while American farmers, from Iowa to Nebraska, struggle with fertilizer shortages, rising costs, and lower crop yields. Meanwhile, Trump keeps shouting about America first. But what does that even mean when your northern neighbor has turned off the tap? Here's the irony. When Trump slapped tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum back in 2018, he said it was about national security. But now, 5 years later, the US is more vulnerable than ever, and it's because of those very tariffs. Canada responded by building new export routes, investing in domestic refining, and forging tighter ties with Asia and Europe. So instead of begging the US for access, countries like Germany and Japan are begging Canada. And Trump? He's left yelling into the void. And Carney? He's not even flinching. In fact, insiders say he's preparing to push even further. There are rumors of a northern shipping lane, a bold plan to move energy and resources through the Arctic as the ice melts. If successful, it would make Canadian exports even faster and more competitive than anything coming out of Houston or New Orleans. And for a warming world desperate for cleaner, stable energy, Canada suddenly looks like a superpower. Let's not forget the environmental angle here. US energy exports are often tangled in political fights over pipelines, emissions, and drilling rights. But Canada, under Carney's guidance, is presenting itself as a cleaner alternative. LNG terminals powered by hydropower. Rail systems built with carbon offsets. It's strategic, brilliant branding, and it's winning over countries who want green energy without compromising supply. And it's not just countries. Multinational corporations, the Googles and Apples of the world, are also signing long-term contracts with Canadian energy firms. Why? Because Carney's plan isn't just about today's trade war. It's about dominating tomorrow's energy markets. The US spent decades building oil empires in the Middle East. Canada? It's quietly building one at home. Let's dig even deeper. Carney's energy strategy is rooted in economics. By diversifying export routes and customers, Canada reduces risk. It no longer relies on a single partner, especially one as unpredictable as Trump. At the same time, Canadian provinces are finally seeing the benefits. Alberta's oil isn't stuck in discount limbo. British Columbia's ports are thriving. Indigenous communities are gaining ownership stakes in major projects. It's a redistribution of power, literally and figuratively. While the US faces drilling slowdowns, refinery closures, and water disputes, Carney steps in with strategic calm. The US media fixates on gas prices and politics, but in Canada, this is seen as a pivotal era, a shift from follower to leader, with Carney directing the move. Meanwhile, Trump sticks to old tactics, tweets, blame, and slogans. But those don't fuel factories, heat homes, or block Canada's 14 million tons of LNG from bypassing America. So where does this leave America? Vulnerable. That's the word experts keep using. Vulnerable to price shocks. Vulnerable to supply shortages. Vulnerable to geopolitical pressure from an ally who no longer needs to play nice. Let me paint you a picture. It's winter. US natural gas prices spike due to a storm in the Gulf. Historically, they'd tap into Canadian supplies to stabilize the grid. But now, those supplies are halfway across the Pacific, being used to power Tokyo and Seoul. The US grid falters. Factories slow down. Voters get angry. And Trump? He'll rant about betrayal, but Carney will be too busy hosting energy summits in Vancouver to notice. And it's not just gas. Steel, potash, uranium, timber, all these sectors are quietly shifting north. Carney is forging deals with Europe that could see Canadian products replacing American ones in key industries. And every time Trump threatens a new tariff, Canada just accelerates its diversification. So what's the end game? For Carney, it's not revenge. It's independence. It's about never again being held hostage by US politics. And in the process, he's rewriting the rules of North American trade. And here's the final twist. While Trump fumes and flails, some US states are quietly reaching out to Canada, begging for bilateral deals, trying to bypass Washington. California wants hydropower. New York wants access to Canadian green tech. They see what's happening. They see the shift. And that shift is permanent. Mark Carney didn't just play his trump card. He flipped the whole table. So what comes next? More pipelines to the Pacific. A full build-out of Canada's East Coast terminals. A surge in rare earth exports. And maybe, just maybe, a future where America isn't the dominant energy force in the hemisphere. And if you think Trump's mad now, just wait until that future becomes reality. Thanks for watching. If this opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes of US-Canada relations, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a deep dive like this. Canada just shocked the world, and this is only the beginning.